Welcome to the fourth lecture in our series of lectures on the paperback computer episode of the Machine That Changed the World documentary. This series is based on a documentary titled The Machine That Changed the World of 1992. It was written and directed by Nancy Lind and produced by WGBH Television of Boston, Massachusetts and the British Broadcasting Corporation. Backers included the Association for Computing Machinery, the National Science Foundation, and the Unisys Corporation. In the previous lecture, we learned about the first successful microcomputers, the Apple, the Radio Shack, and of course the IBM PC. There were other very popular brands at the time, but none had the great success of these three. There's an interesting story surrounding the adoption of PC-DOS for the IBM PC. IBM has long been one of the dominant computer companies in the world, selling and supporting very large and powerful systems for some of the largest domestic and international companies. Their support services can run into the millions of dollars. IBM executives considered a microcomputer to be a commodity product, meaning that it was a product that could be produced by anyone without differentiation across a market. So when they made the decision to venture into microcomputers, they also decided that no one was going to pay for their level of support on a machine that cost less than $6,000. They didn't want to spend a whole lot of time and money on research and development of related products like operating systems, video cards, and so on. They opted to outsource those kinds of products. They had already made a deal with Microsoft to provide a basic interpreter for the new PC, but they did not have an operating system. They contacted Microsoft's Bill Gates and inquired as to whether or not they had one. He told them that Microsoft didn't have an operating system and recommended that they contact Digital Research, the producer of CP/M. So they contacted Digital Research and made an appointment to discuss purchasing an operating system for the new PC. IBM Microcomputer headquarters was in Boca Raton, Florida, and Digital Research was in Pacific Grove, California. 5 IBM executives flew to California to meet with Dr. Gary Kendall, the founder of Digital Research. When they got there, according to the story, they were met by Kendall's wife and attorney. He had decided to go flying that day instead. After the parties negotiated a deal, the IBM managers were told that neither the attorney nor the wife could sign a contract, so they would have to come back and meet with the founder. The 5 managers got back on the plane and on the way back agreed that Digital Research was not really interested, so they would just have to keep looking. On arriving back in Florida, they once again called Gates for another recommendation, and this time he said Microsoft would provide an operating system for the IBM PC. Microsoft didn't have an operating system, so Bill Gates, Paul Allen and Company bought one from the Seattle Computer Products Company in Washington. According to the story, they bought the product for $50,000, although I've heard different versions citing up to $75,000. Regardless, this purchase resulted in millions on down the road for Microsoft, making Gates, Allen, and many others very, very wealthy. Here's Bill Gates. Bill Gates and Paul Allen had long been school friends at the private school they attended. During those early days, the 2 boys had been involved in a number of programming projects, becoming very proficient programmers. After high school, Bill went to Harvard and Paul attended Washington State. Soon after, Paul dropped out of college and moved to Massachusetts to work for Honeywell. While there, he convinced Bill to join him in a programming project. That was the beginning of what would one day become Microsoft. This is Paul Allen. Paul had seen an article on the Altair 8800 and showed it to Bill. They called the manufacturer and arranged to meet to talk about writing an interpreter for the new microcomputer. Let's see what Paul has to say about the experience.
He was a college dropout working in Boston, and one day he spotted a magazine announcing a new small computer called the Altair. He ran to show it to his friend Gates, then at Harvard.
I said, here, look at the magazine. This is the computer we've been waiting for.
This is how the PC, the idea that we all have these computers, this is how it started.
Yeah, and it's amazing to think back then, nobody had personal computers. I mean, there were computers in universities and research labs and in corporations, but nobody had personal computers.
Allen's idea was to write software that would enable the Altair to work as well as those large computers.
And so we called up the company that made it and said, well, we can demonstrate this software for you very, very quickly. Are you interested? And they said, sure, if you can really show up and demonstrate it.
Did you have software?
No.
You had nothing.
We had nothing.
So they spent the next 8 weeks at Harvard feverishly writing code, but without an Altair to test on. Allen writes that because Gates looked like he was 13, they decided Allen should go alone to pitch their software. Sitting by an old original Altair, he showed me how he fed the computer a paper strip with their code punched into it and typed print 2 + 2.
And then I hit return, which is the same thing. And lo and behold, it printed 4. And a wave of relief surged over me because I almost couldn't believe it had worked the first time. So that night I called Bill up and I say, Bill, yeah, it's unbelievable, it worked. And we were just over the moon.
It was the beginning of the age of a computer in every home, on every desk. Almost overnight, people started buying these small computers, and their software was in high demand. In 1977, Gates was even interviewed on a TV show.
There's a lot of people who are forecasting that there'll be software stores just like there are record stores today, and that there'll be thousands and thousands of those. And I think I'd have to agree with that.
That video is courtesy of CBS's 60 Minutes and YouTube. Let's take a break. Look over your notes. When you're ready, come on back for the next conversation about the paperback computer episode of The Machine That Changed the World.